I've actually applied this to Robert. He reached out to me about a week ago. He's like, you know, this is great. I want to send you some data that will allow you to, you know, plug this in. Or I asked for the data if I could use it as an example, and he agreed. So I masked the data, so I'm not putting his business out there, his company. But I want to show you how this applies in real life. So as you start rolling it up, these are the fictitious numbers right here. You plug in these numbers, and when you get all the data in this Excel utility, or the formula we went through, it starts telling you a story. This is what your inventory carrying costs as a min, a max, and an average. But let us go to the case study. So you got a company who's trying to optimize container quantities to a customer, optimizing the demand cycle, while also optimizing inventory levels. The current situation demonstrates an uneven order push to optimize the container overstocking levels. So they have an issue where they want to continue to supply their customer, but how they're building containers and so on, it leads to a very uneven amount of safety stock amongst those items. My task here was to determine the ideal safety stock levels based off the inputs provided. So on each of these SKUs, I plugged this into the utility. It tells, with all the inputs he gave me, the big blue bar here is what his current inventory level is. The orange represents where the max should be based off of the inputs. The red represents where the min should be, and the green is where average. On the potential inventory reduction from average that I calculated on this one SKU is $34,000. $93,000 on SKU B. $109,000 on SKU C. Product D, $81,000, and product E, $196,000. He didn't have a lot of demand variability on his items. And even if we talk about bringing in the container optimization portion of this exercise, there's huge potential savings here by applying the science of what your inventory should be. The sum of all of this, or if you had product F, was $25,000. You might have items where you don't want to carry any inventory at all. And the result would be this big blue bar way, way lower than what it should be, if that's your current inventory stocking level. And that would recommend you need to carry more inventory if you want to keep your customer service levels where you want them to be. So this could go the other direction too. But just with this data, they have just too much, and they have a lot of potential there to reduce their inventory. Product G, $59,000. Anyway, between all of these items, you had a potential for $600,000 savings on that SKU set alone. Again, even if you start plugging in the container optimization for this, where you might have to raise your max up a little bit more, there's still huge potential here to save money. All right, so after you've done all this work, and you sit down and you developed, we talked about where we were we got all the individual line data and min-max targets converting to dollars and standard costs. You grouped your inventory together. You might want to group them by customer, whatever. This helps you determine if you have to tweak your customer service goals or something along those lines to help best service the company in their supply plan. And then you layer in all the other outputs. Again, we talked about the obsolescent inventory that doesn't have any type of movement against it. You have to layer that in to give you your summarized inventory target. There's other considerations. We talked about this at the beginning. So cycle quantity versus forecast. There's always exceptions. Always exceptions that you have to consider. One of them that you have to consider is that there's going to be a minimum buy quantity, an economic order quantity, something that may go against what the min-max suggests. So that should be picked up in calibration. If you're sitting down with everybody and saying, hey, these SKUs, you don't need more than 30 days of inventory on. And they look at the number and it's 1,000 widgets of something. And the plant's looking at that and saying, yeah, but when we run this, we're going to run at least 5,000 cases. We wouldn't run 1,000. It doesn't make sense to run 1,000. So that's something you have to consider, and it affects your max. That would be something that you consider that would be override the formula and say, I got to run up to 1,000. The min can stay where it is, but your average and max will go up. Highly variable demand cycles, they're more difficult to catch, and it skews the Z-score. So when I say highly variable demand cycles, let's say you measure your forecast accuracy within a month, but you've got certain customers out there that come in and order 90% of their forecast week 1, and they order 10% for the rest of the month. Demand managers are sitting back, smoking a cigarette, saying, this is great, I got 100% forecast accuracy.